Imagine it's 1972 and you're in your early 40s. You've got kids, mortgage, a job where your boss calls you sport, even though your knees crack every time you stand up. Your hairline has started a quiet retreat, and your retirement plan is basically, the market will take care of me, right? Because that's what everyone keeps saying. Your broker, real human, bad tie, smells vaguely like coffee and stress, leans back in his chair and says, "Listen, you're overthinking this. Just buy the nifty 50. These companies are so good you can pay any price. One decision, hold forever. Go live your life." And honestly, it sounds amazing. One decision. No spreadsheets. No late night worries. It's just buy the American corporate all-stars and let capitalism tuck you into bed at night. Coca-Cola, IBM, Polaroid, Xerox, McDonald's, the greatest brands in the world. These aren't stocks. These are cultural icons. They have jingles. They sponsor sports. Your kids recognize their logos. What's safer than that? So you buy a lot at high prices. Because everyone else is doing it, and everyone else is doing it has never gone wrong in human history, except for basically every major disaster. Meanwhile, in the background, real life is getting weird. The grocery bill goes up, then up again. You and your spouse start having that delicate conversation in the car. Was it always this expensive, or am I losing my mind? Gas prices jump. You start turning off lights more aggressively, like that's going to single-handedly solve macroeconomics. People keep dropping the word inflation into conversations like it's a new character in a sitcom. Your paycheck is bigger on paper, but somehow smaller in reality. And every time you ask what to do about it, you hear the same line. The stock market is the best hedge. Just stay invested. Translation: relax. It's fine. Don't touch anything. And also buy more. So you double down on those nifty 50 darlings, because you're not a gambler. You're not buying some speculative rubbish. You're buying the most admired, most stable, most beloved corporations in America. What could possibly go wrong? Well, about that, oil shocks hit. Growth slows. Prices don't. That delightful little combo gets a catchy name. Stagflation. It sounds like something you'd take a pill for, but no, it's your economy. Interest rates start climbing, then climbing more, then climbing to levels that, if you saw them today, you'd assume were a typo. Suddenly your can't-lose blue chips are. Losing, not because they went bankrupt. Companies are still there, selling soda, selling tech, selling cameras, doing their thing. But the prices you paid for those stocks assumed a world of low inflation and tame interest rates, and that world yet left the chat. If you bought at peak optimism, you could wait 10 years just to get back to where you started, and that's before adjusting for inflation. Your smart move turned into a decade-long financial treadmill. Sweat, effort, no forward motion. For a lot of normal people in their 40s back then, with kids at home, aging parents starting to need help, bills piling up, it felt like the market betrayed them. They did what they were told. They followed the grown-up advice. It's still they got stuck in the 1970s lost decade. That's our case study. Not because it's dramatic, but because it's painfully familiar. Regular, responsible adults doing what sounds rational, inside an interest rate environment that was quietly flipping to a whole new phase. Fast forward to you watching this, probably in your 40s or 50s, thinking, cool, so I've basically been cast as the main character in a historical rerun. You've lived through bubbles, crises, pandemics, political circus acts. It's in more once-in-a-lifetime events than your lifetime reasonably needed. You've seen thumbnails like "What survives when money falls," and thought, joke's on you, I am gone. Let's anchor this to right now for a moment. You rehearing about the sandwich generation everywhere? People stuck between supporting kids who are somehow both adults and financially allergic? And parents who suddenly need real help. You're paying for tuition, or rent, or weddings, or therapy, while also dealing with parents who need medical care, assisted living, or just more time and money than you conveniently have. At the same time, mortgage rates jumped from "I can live with that" to "I need to sit down." Car loans, credit cards, everything carrying interest feels heavier. Groceries aren't exactly shy either. So if you're sitting there in your 40s or 50s thinking, why does my bank account feel like a group project where I'm the only one doing any work? Congratulations, you are living the modern sandwich generation squeeze. That's why this matters right now. It's not because you need to panic, but because this kind of environment is where the worst investing mistakes in your 40s quietly sneak in. Now let's zoom out and name the thing behind all this. The interest rate supercycle. Don't worry, that sounds drier than it is. An interest rate supercycle is just the very long, very slow pattern of interest rates trending in one direction for decades, broadly down or broadly up, with lots of bumps along the way. In a long falling rate era, each recession is fixed with lower rates. Debt gets cheaper. Housing becomes more affordable per month, even if prices are higher. Companies borrow more, governments borrow a lot more. Financial markets look like a magic trick. The more you borrow and invest, the better it seems to go. After a while, everyone starts to treat that environment as normal. That's just how the world works. In a long rising rate era, the vibe is different. Debt gets heavier, payments grow. Investors demand higher returns. Assets don't float higher as easily. Some things crack. People who learned their entire money worldview in a falling rate world suddenly feel like someone changed the rules mid-game without warning. Humans repeat the same behaviors in these cycles, just in different outfits. Early in a falling rate cycle, people are cautious, traumatized from the last mess. They under-risk. They miss opportunities. Later, confidence turns into overconfidence. People pay higher prices for the same assets because look at the track record. That's when phrases like "this time is different" get popular, right before it isn't. That's exactly where the Nifty 50 came in, the late stage of a long falling rate. Post-war boom. Great companies bought at not-so-great prices. Right before interest rates took off and inflation slapped everyone across the face. Today, we're coming off roughly 40 years of broadly falling interest rates, from early 80s to the late 2010s, with some detours. If you're over 40, your entire adult financial life basically lived under a giant cheap money banner. Housing boomed, markets bounced, by the dip felt like a personality type. Then, inflation came back with more energy than anyone asked for, and interest rates shot up from historical lows too. Oh, that's new. The cost of money changed. Fast. Are we at the start of a long rising rate era? Is this just a spike? Nobody knows. Anyone who tells you they know exactly how this plays out either has a crystal ball or a YouTube channel thumbnail with flames. This channel is not in the prediction business. But history does suggest something. Suppose you've spent decades in one interest rate regime, the adjustment phase. Even if it's temporary, even if it wiggles, that is where a lot of people in their 40s make very expensive mistakes, because there's pressure. Pressure makes people weird. Let's talk about those 40s mistakes, not as a lecture, but like we're adults who've already stepped on at least 3 financial rakes. Mistake 1 is assuming the last 10 to 20 years are the template for the next 10 to 20. If your whole investing life has been shaped by falling rates, tech dominance, and the market always bounces back quickly, it's natural to project that forward. It's like growing up in California and thinking winter just means a light jacket, right? Then you move to Minnesota and find out winter has teeth. The folks in the 1970s thought great companies at any price was safe because it had worked for years. They weren't stupid, they were conditioned. Mistake 2 is reacting to the sandwich generation squeeze with panic moves. You're juggling kids, parents, career, inflation, debt, rising rates. You feel behind. You feel late. You feel like every year you don't catch up is a year your future self will send you angry emails about. So you chase whatever feels like a shortcut. The hot sector, the risky stock, the everyone on my feed is talking about this investment. Or you swing the other way and go full turtle, hiding in cash, terrified to invest at all. While inflation quietly eats your purchasing power like a raccoon in a pantry. Both reactions, over-chasing and over-freezing historically, show up in periods like this. You're not unique. You're just human under pressure. Mistake 3 is treating every headline like breaking news from a brand new universe. This has never happened before is one of the most expensive sentences in finance. In reality, some version of it has usually happened. Just to a different generation. The 1970s crowd thought they were living through chaos from another planet. Them, stagflation was mind-bending. 2 earlier generations, different combinations of inflation, war, policy shifts, and rate changes had already written similar scripts. You're not living through a copy-paste of the 70s, but you're definitely living through something that rhymes. And the rhyme scheme is written by interest rates, inflation, and human behavior. So what does all this actually change for you? Not in terms of do this with your money, but in terms of how you think. First, it upgrades your mental model from markets are crazy to cycles exist. When you know interest rate supercycles are a thing, sudden changes in borrowing costs, housing affordability, and asset prices stop feeling like pure chaos and start looking like what tends to happen when a very long trend gets challenged. You don't have to like it. You just have to stop being surprised every 10 minutes. Second, it turns down the volume on shame. If you're in your 40s or 50s, your timing is, let's say, spicy. You're dealing with expensive kids, expensive parents, expensive everything, right as money itself got more expensive. That doesn't mean you failed at adulthood. It means you got the same delightful timing the 40. Some things in the 1970s got, history didn't pick you because you're bad at budgeting. Just rolled the cycle back around. Once you see that, your internal monologue can shift from I screwed everything up to I'm navigating a rough part of a long pattern a lot of people never even knew they were in. Third, it changes the question from what do I buy to what game am I actually playing. The people with nifty 50 portfolios thought they were playing own the best companies and chill. In reality, they were playing end of a falling rate era, beginning of an inflation shock. They didn't know the rules of the game they were in. You don't have to become an economist. Nobody deserves that. But knowing that interest rate regimes shape valuations, debt burdens, and investor behavior means you at least know what ballpark you're standing in. So instead of obsessing over the latest hot stock, you can ask, does this reaction I'm having, this urge to jump in or flee, sound like the kind of thing people always do during transitions in rate cycles? Or is this feeling of being squeezed to death more about my personal failures? Or about the macro environment making everyone in my age bracket feel like a human ATM with no off button? Am I assuming that what worked in a zero-rate world will automatically work unchanged in a higher-rate world? None of those questions will tell you what to buy or sell, but they'll keep you from playing the wrong movie in your head. Let's go back to our 1972 character for a second. They weren't doomed. Many of them recovered. Some even did well. But the ones who got hurt the most weren't the ones who bought stocks. They were the ones who overpaid at the worst part of the cycle because they were hypnotized by the recent past. Panicked at the wrong time because nobody explained what was actually going on. Lost confidence in any long-term plan because the short-term pain felt like proof that the system doesn't work. Sound familiar? You're living through your own version of that? Different details. Same pattern, interest rates changing, inflation showing up, politics doing, whatever that is, and regular people in their 40s trying to spin 3 plates while the floor moves. History can't tell you if markets go up or down next year. It can tell you that feeling confused right now does not mean you're broken. It means you're awake. So what should you actually do with all this, mentally speaking? You treat context like armor? When headlines scream, instead of thinking this is the end, you think, okay, which part of the cycle does this look like historically? Not perfectly, not exactly, just roughly. When you're tempted to chase whatever your coworker or cousin is hyping, you ask, am I reacting to the pressure of being in the sandwich generation during a weird rate environment? Or am I making a calm, deliberate decision? If that question makes you roll your eyes at yourself, good, that's your signal. When you feel behind, you remember that every generation thinks they started too late and had worse conditions than the last one. The trick is not eliminating that feeling. The trick is not letting it drive the bus. And most importantly, you stop expecting certainty from anyone who doesn't even know what. Interest rates will be 2 years from now, let alone 20. The philosophy here is simple. History doesn't give predictions. It gives perspective. Understanding cycles doesn't hand you a shopping list. It hands you a lens. When you see through that lens, the world doesn't get less messy, but it does get less mysterious. And when things are less mysterious, you tend to make fewer panicked, expensive decisions in your 40s, which, let's be honest, is peak. I really cannot afford another stupid mistake decade. If this kind of calm, sarcastic reality check is your thing, that's exactly what we do here. If you've made it this far, you're clearly someone who values context over clicks, which makes you a rare breed in the current attention economy. You should probably subscribe to Chill Financial Rewind only to ensure your YouTube feed has at least one voice that is shouting at you to buy a digital monkey or panic sell your retirement. Stay calm, stay skeptical, and try not to buy any one decision stocks this week. I'll see you in the next rewind.